How strange. I thought I was dead, but strange words blinded my eyes. Please select an option. One shoulder was completely numb, and the spear through my stomach pinned me to the ground. But what was this before my eyes, this text? What did it mean? What was it talking about? Well done. Restart from beginning. Run. To the left. I could hear my subordinates' cries in my ears. It seemed like there were still a few survivors, but not for long. Elder Gu Zhangmayang of the Mount Hua sect, known as the representative of the ultimate martial artist. You only need to scout. The Lord himself will act. An easy mission. I only needed to reconnoiter the surrounding terrain and then return to the sect. I didn't believe a word of it, but I had no choice. All sorts of terrible things waited for those who didn't follow orders. But I didn't think Gu Zhangmayang would be here. Restart from beginning. Continue honestly, I was frustrated. If only there was a chance. No, if only my martial arts were better. In the end, I acted foolishly because I lacked power. Restart from beginning, continue. Restart from save point. Life is so damn hard. Which is why I was unconsciously trying to ignore it. But what are these characters which keep appearing in front of my blurry eyes? What was it trying to say? At that time, I really had no idea. You chose restart from beginning, the start, before the meeting with the Supreme Pavilion Master. Darkness, that was the first thing Seol-hwi noticed after he died. There was just enough light to judge his surroundings, but it was still dark and humid all around. It doesn't seem like the road to the afterlife. The space was less than 100 square meters. There was a bookshelf to the side and a crumbly-looking wall. Right in the middle, there was a hall of about 30 square meters. What? The old training hall? Seol-hwi's brows raised when he saw the white flagstones. They looked familiar upon investigation. He realized it was the practice room at the backside of the main building. How is this? Seol-hwi couldn't help but laugh at the absurd situation. Chinese letter 0, Chinese letter 1, Chinese letter 2, Chinese letter 3, Chinese letter 4, Chinese letter 5, Chinese letter 6, Chinese letter 7, Chinese letter 8, Chinese letter 9, addition, plus subtraction, multiplication. Seol-hwi's mouth clicked shut. Math stuff? I was dead. But now he was alive. He'd ambushed and run through with a spear. He could clearly recall his wounded arm and even the clothes he was wearing. Just like he could remember staying here before that meeting. Was it a dream? No, it was too realistic to be a dream. The sights, the feeling of air in his lungs, even the thoughts in his head, this was beyond realistic. It was safe to say he'd been revived. You're here, just as he was contemplating how and why he was here. He found a long-haired man walking towards the training hall. Zhangmayang? Seol-hwi's eyes narrowed. The sight made his skin crawl. There was a brief silence, and Qek! Seol-hwi's body bounced back before he noticed. He'd been struck by a fist. My hand slipped. Zhangmayang grinned at him, fist still clenched. You have to say captain, flying faction squad leader. Unlike Seol-hwi's squad of 6, this man led about 100 people, the Black Moon Squad, which reported directly to the Supreme Pavilion. Huak Kak! Seol-hwi was in too much pain to respond. What, beaten after one hit? You think you can treat me like this with the few subordinates you have? Seol-hwi's eyes fluttered. It wasn't just the pain, it was the situation. He'd definitely experienced this before. Hand slipped. Just one hit, cheeky bastard. What, beaten after one hit? One line was missing. So it couldn't be said that the events matched perfectly, but it had started differently last time. It was like, what is going on? If I'm right, the next thing he'll say is, if you don't have skills. Your brain, if you don't have the skills. Learn to use your brain first. What is happening? What the hell was this situation? How could he remember things before they happened? Seol-hwi heaved his hurting body up and bowed politely to the other man. There was no other way to make it stop. The master of the Supreme Pavilion is calling. The same words. Goosebumps rose all over his body. Every word spoken right now matched what he had experienced in the past. What? Can't hear me? I understand. Seol-hwi hurriedly shook his head. In his memories, he got kicked again because of his late reply. And, Zhangmayang interrupted Seol-hwi's sigh of relief. I'll give you a piece of advice. You're lucky. Seol-hwi froze because it differed from his memory. No, strange words hovered over the head of Zhangmayang. That hadn't happened in the past. He belonged to what was known as the Mani sect. In the past, it worshipped Ahura Mazda and sought peace and harmony as much as the Buddha sect. But now, they obeyed the right of might. Few incidents happened in the sect because so long as orders were followed, of course. That excluded people like Seol-hwi. There were some definite advantages of this sect over normal ones. The sect used demonic martial arts. It was known that normal martial artists could rise to first rate after honing their skills for at least a decade, but students of the Mani sect could do it in just 3 years. It was said that quite a few reached the peak of martial arts before the age of 30. However, every light had its shadow. Your lifespan would be reduced. Demonic arts always came with a risk. It was only by sacrificing their lifespan that their growth period could be so short. Other peak martial artists could live till the age of 60, but those of the demonic sect would rarely do so. They were known as Supreme Demon and Extreme Demon. For the Justice faction, they are Entry Realm and Ascended Realm. Squad leader Seol-hwi of the Flying faction is here. Seol-hwi stood before the gate of the Supreme Pavilion and cleared his thoughts. Everything that happened still rattled his mind. Perhaps it was like ripping open the old scars of his painful past. It was difficult to accept this situation. "You may enter." Seol-hwi cautiously moved into the office. The first thing that greeted him was the pungent smell. The next was the painted screens on the left and right of the walls. The four gentlemen, the plum blossom, the orchid, the bamboo, and the chrysanthemum. It terrified him to see them in this hellish place. "You're here." Seol-hwi's gaze turned to the front. There sat Seol-hwi and an old, overweight man. As expected, a member of the Wu-Tian Pavilion is also present. This too matched the past. 5 pavilions, including the Supreme Pavilion and Wu-Tian Pavilion, were working together. The old man there was the head of Wu-Tian Pavilion, one slithery bastard and another loose-handed bastard. Seol-hwi was as skinny and ugly as he remembered. Just looking at his wide eyes and protruding cheeks made you feel unlucky. Regardless, Seol-hwi bowed. "The squad leader of the Flying faction has arrived by command of the master of the Supreme Pavilion. This is the one I told you about a while ago, Seol-hwi." "Ho ho, is that so?" The fat man eyed Seol-hwi strangely. He got a good look and rubbed his chin. "Like you said, he seems talented. See how he holds his head high." Seol-hwi immediately slammed his head to the floor. "Please forgive me for the rudeness I have shown. Our Lord asks you to be less formal when entering his office, so? Ha 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 ha. Wu-Tian Pavilion Master, please don't be too strict." Seol-hwi interrupted his apology. His intentions, however, did not match his words. "Wouldn't it be embarrassing if you act like you're interrogating my people? I honestly don't know what to say. Pavilion Master. Haha, it's no fault of yours, Lord. It's because of that cheeky kid. But it's all because of my poor teaching, hee. I've already seen this once, but it makes my stomach churn. Only 4 days ago, Seol-hwi told Seol-hwi to simply bow and greet him. But now he was playing games with him. If only knowing what would happen could make the fear vanish. I just need to get through this first. Seol-hwi still didn't understand what was happening. Nevertheless, he followed his memories all for the next words. Enough of that." Seol-hwi changed the topic. "Do you have any intention of taking over as a worker in the Chenil office?" "Chenil, you wanted to learn martial arts, so I paid special attention to your needs." The Chenil office was located in the 5th hall. Though it didn't have a place for itself, it housed tens of thousands of secret books. That was his bait. It would be an honor, Lord, but Seol-hwi hid his true intentions. Reality or dream, if he acted the same things would progress the same. "I know. However, since this is such a great honor, I was wondering if I should give you a mission along with it." Seol-hwi waved his hand. The bait was cast, and Seol-hwi's real intentions were revealed. If he was right, he would bring up the Mount Hua sect. "I have something to tell, huh?" "Well," the 2 old men shot him puzzled looks, but Seol said nothing. Follow the given mission. When Seol-hwi saw that, he could no longer deny that he'd died once before. Receive another mission. It wasn't some lucid dream, but reality. Cut off your right arm and the cursor. Follow the given mission. Receive another mission. Cut off your right arm. Followed his gaze. What the hell could this mean? The text from when he was dying had appeared once again, but the choices were different. Has time frozen? Such thoughts were inevitable. Both pavilion masters stared at him like stone statues. Not only did their movements stop, even their eyes were locked in place. Seol-hwi couldn't move his body either. No, not everything stopped. In the corner, something flicked in and out of vision. 8, 7, 6, he'd seen this before. He was sure these characters were from the he saw when he woke up. Chinese letter 0, Chinese letter 1, Chinese letter 2, Chinese letter 3, Chinese letter 4, Chinese letter 5, Chinese letter 6, Chinese letter 7, Chinese letter 8, Chinese letter 9, 5, 4. This is. Seol-hwi peered at the characters. Intuitively, He realized that the characters in the corner were numbers and time, and they were counting down. 5, 4. The numbers continued to drop, as if demanding he make a choice. A choice? 4, 3. Seol-hwi frantically reread his options. One choice caught his eye. It seemed as if the words he'd said to the old men in the past were an option. Follow the given mission, receive another mission, cut off your right arm, what the hell could? Seol-hwi was thoroughly confused, but he knew two things for certain. 1. He was almost about time to choose, and 2. He had to avoid getting his arm cut off. He certainly didn't want to approach an unknown future without an arm. In the end, his gaze settled on the second option. And time resumed. The darkened surroundings brightened with a flash, and the old men were moving once again. Wow. Seol-hwi clapped his hand over his mouth, but he couldn't stop what he'd said before the choices appeared. Seeing his actions, the fat man clicked his tongue and stroked his long beard. You want another mission? Why? Those words brought Seol-hwi back to reality. In an instant, his body was surrounded by an energy that crushed the breath from his lungs. The flame demonic arts, better known as the bone-melting flame chi skills. I didn't even tell you what kind of mission it was, and you're so arrogant as to ask me for a different one. Seol-hwi couldn't answer. He simply had no reply to offer, so he remained silent. Stop! Huck! Seol-hwi shuddered. A straight blade hovered before his throat had Seol-hwi spoken a little later. It would have pierced his neck. Black secret. She was a vessel who protected Seol-hwi. 100 people like Seol-hwi wouldn't even be able to lay a hand on her. We will hear him out and decide. The woman withdrew her blade. Please don't get me wrong, master. When I said I wanted a different mission, it didn't mean I objected to your choice. Then, I recently heard a rumor that the Mount Hua sect is gathering near the borders of Lanzhou. Hasn't my lord always said that eliminating the Mount Hua sect was our sect's long-cherished goal? And so that was a promising reaction. I want to take that chance. My squad specializes in recon and diversions. If we know when our warriors will be ready, we can move accordingly. Scouting was good. With his skills, he was dead the moment the enemy discovered him. That was what happened in the past when he met the warrior of Mount Hua sect. Wasn't it? He was dead meat. Unfortunately, he knew the pavilion master would have killed him if he tried to take a different mission. Will this be okay? Seol-hwi warily raised his eyes. If things didn't go as he remembered, they'd cut him down where he kneeled. Seol-hwi didn't answer. It was the fat man who spoke. Hu. It seems the information has leaked from the Eagle Sky Pavilion. Otherwise, how would a squad leader know about it? Right. Seol-hwi's eyes widened. It wasn't just his intuition. Eagle Sky Pavilion was one of the higher-ranking pavilions and was responsible for intelligence gathering. That meant his reasoning checked out. Interesting. Well, I was about to give you a mission, but would you be able to handle this? The constricting energy disappeared, but Seol-hwi's gaze was somewhere else. That thing is back. This time he didn't say anything out loud. Life. Addition. 4. He knows the plus character as 10-1, but in this text it meant addition. He was sure of it. This was clearly something he had to know. Life addition 4. He wasn't sure what it was, but it seemed to be related to him, very closely related. After leaving the office, Seol-hwi was walking down a narrow road through the gloomy evening. This road ran through the north side and ended at the dorms where his squad ate and slept. As said, the sect's vice lord himself will act. Before that, we need someone to scout the land, examine the people and topography, then report back. The mission was exactly the same as he remembered. Investigate the land and report back. The lies rolled off Seol-hwi's tongue so naturally. Right, no one is coming for the report. Never mind the vice lord. Not a single captain would appear. He tried his best just to die in vain. Going on a big mission this time? Need to be careful. So why were we near the Supreme Pavilion? Seol-hwi's gaze settled on a person perched on the decorative rocks in the artificial pond, giggling and smiling. Chik-san, a member of the Black Moon, wherever Jiak-myung was, Chik-san would not be far. His arms and legs were left exposed, probably to show off his muscles. Ah, did I interrupt you while you were talking to yourself? Sorry. Well, I couldn't help myself when I heard you. Heh. Seol-hwi was unperturbed. Black Moon's sarcastic attitude was the norm. They mimicked their squad leader. Well, it could have been an order from the master of the Supreme Pavilion, too, but it didn't matter. What, do you have something to say? He was sure he'd met this guy in the same spot last time. He just ignored him because he was scared of what Jiak-myung might do in reply. I have something to check. Check. This time he wouldn't let it go. The words floated above Chik-san's head. Maybe this time he could find a clue. What do you want? Chick-san paced towards Seol-hwi, step, 1 foot in front of the other, but in the middle of his step. His face contorted, Seol-hwi's whipped into motion. Confused, Chick-san snatched his sword from his waist. Their swords clashed several times, but Chick-san's sword trembled. Too late. You bastard, and that was that. Seol-hwi's sword was half a breath quicker, and stabbed into Chick-san's heart. Kuak! Chick-san desperately groped at the sword piercing his chest. His eyes were wide and trembling with disbelief. Why were you watching The Office? Seol-hwi pushed the sword a little deeper. I was hoping to find something in there. I want to get stronger. But I couldn't find anything no matter how much I searched. Kuak, huck. Fuck, this fucking place throws a third-rate martial artist in and tells me to get strong on my own. You want to go where I went? Well, it's less embarrassing since the start is the same. Don't be too shocked, I'll follow you soon. If things went according to his memory, Seol-hwi would die soon, but before that happened, he had something he needed to do. He withdrew his sword and Chick-san's body sank to the ground. Crimson blood stained the ground around the corpse. He's gone. Seol-hwi's eyes narrowed. Something had changed. With Chick-san's death, the words above his head had disappeared. Seol-hwi took a step back and hefted his sword. Life addition. He thought the man might come back to life before his very eyes, but nothing happened. Seol-hwi peered into the placid pond. What is this? Reflected in the pond. He could see the first words over his own head. Coin 2, 2 chances. What? There was a word that had no meaning in this world. It was coin. Name, Seol-hwi. Age, 29. 8th year in the Flying Faction. Your rank in the Heavenly Essence Academy. Heavenly Essence Academy taught the basics within the Demonic Academy, like innate qualities and musculature. Their complex elements such as patience, persistence, and effort are systemized into scores and evaluated. The Academy took in classes of around 1,000 people. I was 12th. What? Officer Du-hong stopped and raised his head. His expression said he couldn't believe such a high-ranked person was in this shabby place. Then he notices Seol-hwi's drooping shoulder. Your right arm, what happened? There was an accident. Accident? Du-hong glanced at the name signed on the letter of recommendation and shook his head. Well, none of my business. Du-hong filled in the paper and no further questions were asked, but Seol-hwi's face was tense. Coincidence or fate, something completely unexpected hovered over Du-hong's head. This is where you will work. Du-hong brought him down to the basement. You'll be responsible for cleaning these books without damaging them. Tens of thousands of volumes were arrayed before his eyes. Books scattered across the floor. Books torn, books everywhere. What, don't want to? Ah, no, Seol-hwi bowed. Don't even think about coming out until you've cleaned all of this. Yes, and... Du-hong remembered something. Yes, officer. If possible, try not to get noticed. If you want to live long, that is. Monsters roam freely here. With that, the man slammed the door shut and disappeared upstairs. Although Seol-hwi's surroundings were dark, his expression wasn't. In fact, his eyes glittered with hope. How strong would his skills be? To get out of here, no, to take revenge, he had to take a life. Even one wrong choice could kill him. No, before that, how could I even win with this body? His right arm was crippled, preventing him from using martial arts. He'd never even tried to use martial arts with his left hand. The Supreme Pavilion and Wu Tian Pavilion must never know. Seol-hwi looked around at the countless books. Most of them were probably military manuals and miscellaneous books of unknown origin. In the basement of Chanil-1, there was no such thing as ascending its 12 floors. I will try again, even if it costs me my life. Shuck. Bookshelves were filled one by one. His movements were slow. He only had one hand, but his eyes were not. Because until now, the books he'd read were only basic stuff. What? Deep flow? He picked up one of the books. The deep flow of something deep. Seol-hwi put it on the shelf without another glance. He'd picked it up thinking it was something extraordinary, but it was entirely ordinary. How much more do I have? He paused and looked back. After several hours of work, there was still a huge amount to clean. He hadn't even figured out how many books were there. But his thoughts turned to just before his death. Save point. Seol-hwi could remember it clearly. Save point and something called storage. That means I can record my life. How do I? Seol-hwi was curious. How did he save? Under what circumstances could he save? No, he chuckled. This isn't the time to save. I can't save at a time when I'm a one-armed bastard. Not this time. This life was a complete mess. Phew. Let's work first. He stood and began stacking books, wincing at the pain in his right shoulder. Shuck, shuck, shuck. White light demonic arts possible. Bare-handed demonic arts not possible. Peak flourishing demonic arts not possible. An unexpected window appeared. This is. Seol-hwi stared. In the pile of books, one book was shining. I can move this time. His body hadn't stopped. Possible, not possible. Did that mean out of the three he could only choose the first one? But how do I choose? Seol-hwi glared intently at the third option, but nothing changed. Normally, the arrow would follow his gaze. Wait. He remembered the first sentence from when the status window appeared. Swipe to unlock. Maybe like this. He slid his gaze to the right, and the options disappeared like a lie. I did it. Gah! Seol-hwi's face instantly fell again. The peak flourishing demonic arts was similar to the flame demonic arts used by the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion. In the past, the former teacher was famous for using it. Though he'd never seen it, Seol-hwi thought of it as an advanced art. It's fine, there are other things. It was unfortunate, but Seol-hwi turned his attention to the first option. He wasn't sure what the white light demonic arts were, but it had to be useful. The text in question was entitled 3 Essences Primary Instruction Manual. It'll work out. He chose the only option he had. Swordsmanship possible. Close combat possible. Footwork possible. Seol-hwi didn't hesitate. He would prefer to learn everything, though. First is swordsmanship. A video, a translucent film was drawn before him. A shadow, not a human, came to life in front of him. No! It wasn't just moving. From the very beginning to the specifics of posture, to the forces and position on the feet, and even the sword technique unfolded naturally. The faintest condensation could be seen emerging from the shadow's mouth as it taught him how to breathe. Everything was laid out, one by one. White light swordsmanship skill table, great sword. Down, down, right arrow, left arrow. B, new, meaningless words and new symbols. On the first day, he decided to learn the movements. Surprisingly, these martial arts worked with just his left arm. Having mastered the swordsmanship, it was much easier to learn close combat and footwork afterwards. When he selected the close combat and footwork sections, the shadow appeared to teach him once again. Its teaching was perfect, even when the text was absolutely unintelligible to him. A week, 7 days passed like this. By then, Seol-hwi could follow the movements in their entirety, albeit a little clumsily. The question is, now whenever he wanted to exercise the swordsmanship technique, the window would pop up. The new symbols clearly had some meaning, but he couldn't figure out what they were. Oh, wait. What if I do it the same way as selecting the options? He looked at the skill sheet and slid his gaze to the right. Forward, back left arrow, top up arrow, bottom down arrow, bottom right down right arrow, bottom left A equals right hand, B equals left hand, C equals right foot, D equals left foot. Seol-hwi immediately compared it to the great sword skill table. It had the same symbols, down, down, right arrow, left arrow, and was B, which meant to use the left hand. Let's try it. He didn't quite understand, but he decided to give it a shot. Surely he could figure it out as he went. Whatever it meant. A month had passed. Seol-hwi's imitations of the shadow were similar, but not perfect. The energy the shadow would unfold was powerful enough to smash through the bookshelves and shatter walls, but in Seol-hwi's attempts the energy would disappear right away. He wasn't even at 30% of what the shadow could do. This strength with my left hand. Despite not using his right hand, the white light demonic arts emitted a profound energy. It would be nice to use the great sword, too. Seol-hwi was constantly looking at the skill table. He couldn't unleash the great sword even after an entire month. But what is this? It seemed like he had the confidence to fight a member now. Well, I need to get back to cleaning. Seol-hwi grumbled at the piles of unorganized books. If weren't for the dusty corner, he could have been done even sooner than expected. Let's see if I've missed anything. He walked towards the corner table and picked up a book of martial arts. He was interrupted by the door opening. Seol-hwi stared at the other person. There was someone here. It was a young man, probably an academy scholar. What now? Seol-hwi couldn't take his eyes off the man. Is there something on my face? The young man tilted his head inquisitively. No way, not 1 but 10. Who was this and what was this mark? No. Seol-hwi came to his senses and shook his head. Samagwai's guard had 4 lives. Anyone with 10 lives, no matter who, had to be strong. You don't have to be on alert. The young man waved it off with a smile. Contrary to Seol-hwi's expectations, this man seemed innocent and free-spirited. But what do I call you? You can call me Seol-hwi? Yes. But Seol-hwi, what were you doing down here? I was organizing the bookshelves. Ah, so you were cleaning up. The young man nodded. Good, then let me ask you another thing. Please do, Seol-hwi replied. The young man peered around as if looking for something. Have you seen a book called Three Primary Essences Instruction Manual? I've never seen that book. More choices. I've learned the martial arts in that book. Seol-hwi stiffened. I've never seen that book. I've learned the martial arts in that book. He couldn't choose an option haphazardly. After all, the book he was looking for was in Seol-hwi's hand. At this point, it was a compulsion, not a choice. A choice without choice. 580, 579, 578. Now that I look at it. A whopping 3 digits of time just when he had to make the worst choice. 499, 498, 497. It seemed like it was trying to tell him something. Something like, find the reason. There has to be a way out of this situation. Seol-hwi frantically analyzed everything he remembered. If there was an answer, there was a way out. One conclusion arose. His one option had to be the best choice, rather than the worst choice. If it was the worst choice, there literally would be no answer. That's what I've noticed so far. As he'd realized from his other choices, making the best choices kept him alive. If so, this choice, you seem to be in the same situation as me. The worst one didn't have to be the worst, but it could be. Regardless, it was the only choice he had. 462, 462, 460. Seol-hwi continued to ponder. How could he convince this disciple of the heavenly demon who was obviously hostile? There had to be an answer. The only reason he was here was because he had good choices in the past. 432, 431, 430. Tick. 399, 398, 397. Talk. 355, 354, 353. Tick. 210, 309, 208. Wait. Seol-hwi came to a realization. That is surprising. That man really doesn't have the personality to ask someone for such things. His tone wasn't friendly. Seol-hwi noticed that, to the Earth Demon, they were all being divided up under the premise of family. I don't know how you found out, but it won't change anything. I am just someone who has been dragged into this power struggle. A disciple of the heavenly demon wanted to be free of the struggle. Did this man really not care about the power struggle? Seol-hwi was too young to know much about the sect's internal affairs, but he knew one thing: survival of the fittest. The sect was dedicated to the strong. You seem to be in the same situation as me. What exactly did that indicate? It meant that both of them were in similar positions, so his heart would long for power more than anyone because Seol-hwi was the same. 40, 39, 38. Thinking about it a different way, assuming he could give this man power. What could he do? How could he offer him strength? 21, 2019. Right, Gujong Mayung, that person came to mind. When he thought about it, the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion did too. Seol-hwi had information no one else could get. How did you know? Someone in the upper ranks of the demonic sect was in contact with someone from a different sect. That was the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion's weak point, an opportunity for the Earth Demon to flex his power. It might satisfy him. 3, 2, that's what I think, but... Seol-hwi examined the man in front of him. The moment of truth had come. Continue. What? The young man hesitated. Still, Seol-hwi couldn't tell what he was thinking. In a way, the man seemed flustered but angry at the same time. No, he's definitely angry. The dark blue demonic energy rising from the blade made his nerves tingle. Was he too late? It was hard to imagine convincing someone who was this angry, but he had to try. If his words could reach him, his life would change once again. Earth Demon, when you were chosen by the heavenly demon, the other disciples had already laid their foundation and gathered support. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to close the gap. The other disciples were at least 10 years older than this man, and it had only been 5 years since the heavenly demon chose the Earth Demon. It wouldn't be easy for a latecomer to overcome this head start. Nevertheless, the fourth disciple overcame the crisis with his own power. That face that you made a specialized assassination faction is something no one in the demonic sect wouldn't know. Suddenly, the young man's blade was at his throat. Don't turn away, what are you trying to say? He's listening. Seol-hwi found a thread of hope he'd caught his attention. Go after the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion. What? The Earth Demon's eyes shifted. Seol-hwi jumped at the opportunity and prostrated himself. The Supreme Pavilion is a core branch of the Scarlet Demon. If you catch the Supreme Pavilion, you will be taking a core organ from the faction. Isn't that why you came to see me? The Earth Demon flinched, and the demonic energy on his sword began to disappear. The Earth Demon didn't come looking for that book. You weren't even slightly interested in it, or else you would have gone looking for it right away. The man stared at the floor. I've been thinking. With every word, Seol-hwi's voice steadied. Why would the disciple of the heavenly demon come to this place? Why bother talking to me? It couldn't have been just to find a book or to speak to me, the lowest of the low. That was when I realized something. Bu Ilgi eyed him. You came to find me. More precisely, you came to find a person who knew the weaknesses of the Supreme Pavilion. The young man's expression tightened, and he turned his gaze back towards the ground. What makes you think that? The mission the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion was trying to give me. Coincidentally, wasn't I the only one left out? It had been a month since Seol-hwi was appointed to the library. All his subordinates were dead, if events flowed according to his memory. Members of the flying faction, dead at the hands of a Mount Hua warrior. A month would have been enough time for the news to reach the demonic sect. The Earth Demon must have heard it too. There was simply no other reason a disciple of the heavenly demon would come to see me. Not Seol-hwi, the weakest of the weak. Even if it had happened by chance, the Earth Demon wouldn't pay so much attention to him. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. The Earth Demon laughed. He was grinning. Really, you are an interesting one. I can see why Sama-gwi hated you. An ambiguous sort of statement. Seol-hwi knew he wasn't safe yet. Just withdrawing his sword didn't mean he was withdrawing his hostility. Well, it's fine. Let's move on for now. Bu Ilgi nodded thoughtfully. So you're saying you can fill in the gaps? Right, that's right. And how? Seol-hwi didn't answer. What? Can't think of anything. After all that, this is how it turns out. His lips curled irately and his expression turned cold. No, then why aren't you speaking? There's an issue. An issue? The Earth Demon's eyebrows rose, but Seol-hwi was unperturbed. If I give you what you want, what do I get? What? The young man's face crumpled. But Seol-hwi wasn't about to back down now. He'd been doing a lot of thinking about the cycles of life and death while he was in the library basement. He couldn't afford to live the same way anymore. He didn't want to live his life being dragged around by other things like the man in front of him. Earth Demon, I'm risking my life here. I think that if there's something to gain, I should benefit somehow. No more being dragged around. He'd lead his life under his own power. How much do you think your life is worth? Do you forget I can kill you before you even realize? I know. However, if the Earth Demon spares me the time and effort and a fair chance, don't you think it would be worthwhile? Time and effort. Yes. The Earth Demon didn't answer. He crossed his arms and spent a long minute pondering. If you have useful information, I'll give you a worthy reward. Seol-hwi nodded. The time had come. The Supreme Pavilion's weakness is Gu Yongmayung of Mount Hua sect. Bu Ilgi just stared blankly at him. Is there any evidence for that? The Lord isn't some senile old man to leave evidence behind. So, just an assumption. It might be an assumption on my end. But it doesn't have to be for you. If the problem is narrowed down to one person, don't you already possess the ability to verify the assumption? Seol-hwi believed the Earth Demon had backers. Among them, there would be many who could find the truth of this. What did you say your name was? Seol-hwi? Seol-hwi, huh? The Earth Demon bent down to meet his eyes. Let's check it out. Ah, Seol-hwi groaned in relief. But before that, there is something you need to do. Yes, what? Jiak-myung, kill him. Seol-hwi was shaken. Jiak-myung, his longtime bully, the captain of Black Moon, one of the Supreme Pavilion's men. What? Don't want to? It's not that, it's just... If you want me to trust you, I have to vet you. The Earth Demon made a sly expression. Who knows, you could be one of the Supreme Pavilion's men. Right. Just like the rumors said, this man didn't trust anyone. Seol-hwi had no evidence, so he had to offer something else. Can you do it? Seol-hwi didn't hesitate. It wasn't a matter of can or cannot. It had to be done. I'll do it. Seol-hwi raised himself up on one knee. This time he spoke with an undeniable confidence. I will kill him. Gah, Seol-hwi managed to climb out of the latrine. His body was covered in a foul stench, but his expression couldn't be brighter. Critical hit. The opponent took 1,404 damage. The words danced in front of his eyes over and over again. Seol-hwi turned to Jiak-myung's dead ass. Health, 0/1,404, run out of health, you die. The number had changed on his opponent's status window. The internal energy was at 0 as well, since he was dead. What I just did, could I do it again? When the sword moved, a tremendous energy radiated from it without his intervention. Ha! It doesn't use internal energy. Internal energy. 240/240 Seol-hwi examined his status window. For some reason, his internal energy hadn't decreased despite using his swordsmanship. Great sword, an instantaneous power. He didn't understand it. He was just trying to avoid getting splashed by shit. I don't know, let's just wash off first. The stench was positively clogging his nostrils. Seol-hwi dumped Jiok Mayung's corpse into the toilet pit and ran out to find his clothes. Ah! Seol-hwi came to the lakeside to wash himself, avoiding any lurking eyes. But no matter how hard he scrubbed, the stench wouldn't leave him. His entire body itched too. Finally! Seol-hwi brightened. New words floated over his head. Coin 3 chances. I can live again. Seol-hwi instinctively dropped his gaze to his right shoulder. Even if he went back, he wouldn't be able to change the situation for the better. Should I head back to the Earth Demon? Now that his target was dealt with, he had to let the Earth Demon know. No. I need to think carefully. Seol-hwi shook his head. He couldn't trust the man just yet. To be precise, he couldn't grasp his intent for giving him such an impossible mission. Okay, I need to go to Seol-hwi instead. Assassinating Jiok Mayung could put his life in danger here, to say nothing of his missing arm. He pondered how to plan his future. If only the weak points of the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion could be caught. If only he had information the Earth Demon could use. Seol-hwi put on his clothes. The stench still wasn't gone. Let's go. He moved to the Supreme Pavilion. Who came? Seol-hwi was rather surprised. An unexpected visitor had come in the night. It is because I need to tell. Seol-hwi stared at him coldly. Sorry. I can head back. Enough. Huh. If he came to see me in the middle of the night, he must have a reason. Seol-hwi abruptly smiled and nodded. Tell him to come. The messenger left. After a while, Seol-hwi appeared. Officer of the Heavenly Library greets the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion. Seol-hwi prostrated himself as he had in the beginning and waited for the Lord to speak. He was met with silence, but he knew the old man hated it if people didn't greet him like this. Does this make you feel great? As expected, his first words were sarcasm. To step into my place fearlessly. Who do you think you are? You. The man stood and approached Seol-hwi only to wrinkle his nose. You reek. It couldn't be helped. What? If not, how could I dispose of the captain of the Black Moon with my own hands? Seol-hwi gazed down at Seol-hwi expressionlessly. That was his character. Be it any situation, he would approach it with a calm face. Seol-hwi eyes Seol-hwi like he was trying to look into his skull. I wonder how you killed him, but first... The Lord slowly approached, closer and closer, making Seol-hwi's breath catch in his throat. You, whom did you meet? Seol-hwi got close enough to touch his face. Seol-hwi gulped. What ack? Seol-hwi grabbed Seol-hwi by his collar. Don't try using your brain. If your mouth says a single wrong thing, you die. Kak-uk. I ask again. Whom did you meet? Seol-hwi's eyes bored intently into Seol-hwi. Did the Earth Demon sell me out? Although Seol-hwi wasn't overly concerned with getting the right answer. Isn't it more important to know what the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion is hiding rather than whom I met? What? Seol-hwi scowled at him and snorted. After going to the library, it seems like your way of thinking has changed. Do you have a death wish? You must. Didn't you always want to kill me? Seol-hwi sighed. He was flustered enough to crack his calm facade. If you are curious, I met with a disciple of the Heavenly Demon. They sent me here. That was a lie. It didn't matter, though. Seol-hwi had to figure something out. Ho-oh, Seol-hwi moved. Anger flashed through his eyes for a brief moment. Well, no wonder you couldn't have killed Jiok Mayung without help. So that's why. Now Seol-hwi understood why the old man asked him who he met. The Lord knew that the Earth Demon was in the Heavenly Library, and he'd expected that the Earth Demon had helped Seol-hwi kill Jiok Mayung. Right. What does the disciple want to know? Seol-hwi walked away to stare at a painting. He asked when and where you had secret conversations with Gu Young Mayung of Mount Hua. Seol-hwi stiffened. I knew it. Seol-hwi was observing him. Revealing sect information to an opposed sect was treason. There was a long silence. The disciple asked that? Seol-hwi spoke without turning around. Yes, anything else? When and where the next meeting is? There was no reply, as if the man was struggling to hide his emotions. Lord, the fourth disciple has been pondering this issue for a long time. However, since this could be a serious issue, he spoke through me. Answer honestly. Seol-hwi was overjoyed. This was information he never could have gotten if he hadn't come back. KHMM? Samagwai seemed troubled. Please tell me. Seol-hwi had no way of knowing if he would tell him truth or lies, or he could just have Seol-hwi killed. Seol-hwi just wanted a clue. Early next month. We'll meet at Mount Hwanga. Got you? Seol-hwi's eyes glittered. After several regressions, he'd finally got some information. Something caught his eyes, down in the bottom right, exactly in front of the chair. Two dim characters blinking in and out. Seol-hwi crawled a little forward to get a better look. He would never dare to do this in the past, but it was different now. It could be something that could help him. What's more, the opportunity buoyed his courage. There's nothing there? Seol-hwi shook his head. It was completely empty. Still, the light blinked. Seol-hwi decided to reach out towards the light. Seol-hwi's eyes widened. Words appeared again. You received a map, secret map of the Supreme Pavilion. A map, see details, accept/reject, accept, of course. The window immediately spread out across his vision. Map description. A book that displays places of interest in the Central Plains and the Supreme Pavilion. Here is the man on Mount Hwanga, the place where you first encountered Gu Zhangmayang of Mount Hua. Every quarter year they meet. So this is where they meet. Seol-hwi was delighted by the new information, but there was more. Toolbox has been created. How strange. Medicinal herb, 1 confectioner's bar, 1 map, 1 medicinal herb. What is a bar? He could only shake his head at these oddities. But Samagwai suddenly started speaking. When did the fourth disciple teach you martial arts? That. Seol-hwi paused for a long moment. He taught me a few days ago. When did you meet? The day I joined the library. Samagwai looked away. However, there was something strange to his face. The calm was gone, replaced by a heated expression. It hasn't been long since I sent you. But he trusts you enough to teach you martial arts and kill Jiak Mayang, and trusts you enough to go here and gather information. Something was wrong. The way he talked, his expression, that gaze. He was getting closer. Seol-hwi fell back and the Lord's sword pierced his abdomen. You must think I'm some kind of pushover. Do you know where you went wrong? You see, the Earth Demon doesn't teach anyone martial arts. He only uses martial arts bestowed to him by the sect leader. Samagwai grinned at his pained expression. However, Seol-hwi's eyes glittered. What? You're making that kind of expression even now? Don't know. What? You don't know? Samagwai stared blankly at him. You lost to me. You bastard. Samagwai stabbed him in the chest again. In his darkening vision, Seol-hwi saw it once again. Restart from beginning. Continue. Restart from save point. He longed for another life and returning to before your private meeting with Samagwai. Eagerly awaited his life. Why was I born? Why am I okay with killing? Why do I want to be strong? Everything starts with why. Not following direct orders. Growing dissatisfaction with the environment even though he finished 12th. Being judged as inappropriate. A wanderer with no affiliation becomes the head. It all starts with why. The answer was unknown. According to the rules of the demonic sect, people obey and fear the strong. That question could have broken the sect's brainwashing and created abnormalities. Right. Maybe that was why he received the wrath of Samagwai, dark walls and gloomy skies. This humid space was his room. That was expected, but he didn't expect to come back to this time. My arm. His right arm, still attached, flexed and bent according to his will. A sense of relief washed the anxiety from his face. Now I have 2 lives left. Seol-hwi reflected on his previous life. There were a number of cases where he could change the future. Seol-hwi looked to his right. The text and symbols had become his driving force to live. Status window, my ability. Seol-hwi noticed some things had changed. Status, Seol-hwi leader of the flying faction, body normal. Value health. 118/120 internal energy. 250/250. Skills, possessed weapons. Attack skills. Wind sword health was slightly higher, presumably because he had a functional right arm. The white light martial arts. The most noticeable change was the disappearance of the white light martial arts. That's strange. I remember the movements. Seol-hwi stood and drew his sword, focusing on the white light martial arts. You have obtained white light martial arts. Even though the technique wasn't properly demonstrated, the contents were obtained. Skills. possessed weapons. Heavenly demon sword, 7 black demon sword, white light demonic arts, this is a sign. Seol-hwi nodded his head. In a way, it was normal. He clearly remembered past events, so remembering martial arts should be natural. Seol-hwi's eyes then moved to the other side, towards a newly generated title. Tools, medicinal herbs, 1 confectionery baron, 1 map. One knew there was something new there. Seol-hwi fiddled with the window. Since it was a tool, he had to be able to use it somehow. When he blinked at the word map, "Do you want to open map?" Accept / reject blink. As soon as he agreed, Seol-hwi's hand held the map, a secret book that documented the actions of the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion. Seol-hwi calmly unfolded it and turned a few pages. "Ha ha!" Seol-hwi's face turned pale. The place where he met Gujang Mayung and all the other happenings on Mount Hwang were recorded thereon. Seol-hwi tucked the map into his sleeve and turned back to the status window. He examined the herb, requesting a detailed explanation. Medicinal herb description: a common herb, grows everywhere. Effect: increases stamina by 2. The window asked him if he would use it, but he rejected it and kept reading. Confectionery bar description: boiled red beans, filtered through a sieve, then kneaded together with wheat and honey and steamed. Effect: increases stamina by 3. When he decided to use it this time, something dropped into his hand. It was flat and long like a nameplate, but narrow enough to hold in one hand and covered in a soft material like wrapping paper. "Do I tear this apart and eat it?" Seol-hwi tore it up and found that the inside looked like a thick, soft rice cake. He took an experimental bite and rolled it over his tongue to savor the taste. His eyes popped open and he stared at the bar with a bewildered expression. "So, tasty. Health restored by 1 health, 119 plus 1/120, haha. How bizarre. Did such things really exist?" Seol-hwi took another bite and saw his health tick up. "Should I put this back in?" It would be a pity to use it all now. He looked at the bar and blinked twice. Nothing. He tried raising the bar up to the toolbox. "Do you want to put it in the toolbox?" "Haha, so this is how it's done." Placed securely in the toolbox. Seol-hwi clenched his fists happily. Suddenly a voice interrupted him. "This was where you were." A long-haired man strode down the hallway towards him. It was Jiak Mayung, who he'd just killed. "Feels good on my fist. I just hit it. I mean, look at that cheeky stare." "What? Is getting hit unfair? Do you want me to treat you nice just because you have a couple of subordinates?" Seol-hwi rubbed his cheek as he walked towards the library. Naturally, Jiak Mayung had acted according to his memory, swinging fists, tossing out warnings, and even calling him names. There was one thing that changed, however. He lost 2 lives. Perhaps because Seol-hwi had killed him, the numbers over his head were gone. Apparently, the marks over their heads could only be seen once. Seol-hwi stood on the 12th floor of the Heavenly Library. "Well, when I have nothing to do, I stay at the top floor of the Heavenly Library. Does that answer your question?" He'd avoided the Supreme Pavilion and came straight here to meet the Earth Demon. "What?" Du-hong eyed him, his legs propped up on the table. His dull expression seemed to resent working. "I was called by the Earth Demon." "What?" Du-hong straightened up in a hurry. This jerk knew it all. "For what purpose?" "It's important. Do I have to tell you that?" Go up from there." Du-hong gestured behind him. "Thank you." Seol-hwi bowed and went on his way. "Sir Earth Demon, the leader of the flying faction, Seol-hwi, wishes to see you." Seol-hwi worried that the Earth Demon's escorts would throw him out. Fortunately, he saw nothing. "Who is it?" Seol-hwi raised his voice a little. "A lower captain of the Supreme Pavilion, not a special unit but known as the Flying Faction." "Is that so?" After a little hesitation, the Earth Demon continued speaking. "But why are you here to meet me?" "I brought information which will be of great help in building a great nation in the future." The Earth Demon didn't answer for a long time. Seol-hwi had no way of knowing if he would trust him or not. "Come in." Fortunately, Seol-hwi was granted permission to press onwards, so wide. The scene revealed by the opening door was like a beautiful canvas. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined the walls at 3-meter intervals, illuminating the rows of bookshelves. "You're an interesting person." The Earth Demon smiled at him. The gentle light reaching through the windows made him look angelic. "Fine. What kind of information do you have?" Seol-hwi took a bracing breath and drew the book from his sleeves. "What is that? You'll know once you read it." The Earth Demon took the book from his hands and slowly browsed through it. "This." His eyes widened with disbelief and his voice turned terse. "Are you sure?" I risked my life for it. Who are you? His voice belied displeasure, but Seol-hwi stared boldly into his enigmatic eyes. A captain trying to put the Earth Demon on the stage. And what good does that do you? I want to be strong. Seol-hwi didn't hesitate. It was only natural for him to ask such a question. Just like everyone else. The Earth Demon didn't answer for a long moment while he pondered, leaving Seol-hwi to stew nervously. If this is really true, he snapped the book shut and approached Seol-hwi to whisper in his ear. I'll give you what you want. 3 hours passed. Seol-hwi hovered around the Earth Demon's room, waiting for him. It should be fine. Seol-hwi occasionally glanced at the door. He had an anxious feeling that he couldn't shake. The hierarchy of the demonic sect went palace, institute, pavilion, group, and faction in descending order. Everyone knew that the supreme pavilion followed the blood demon, the first disciple of the heavenly demon, not the earth demon, the fourth disciple. Seol-hwi started at the sound of footsteps. He's here. How did things go? Thoughts of failure flashed frantically through his mind. Did you say you were Seol-hwi? The earth demon stood in the door with a firm expression. Seol-hwi nervously weighed his options. Do you want to save? Why all of a sudden? This was the first time he'd seen the save option. Finally, its usage was being revealed. Where do you want to save? Year 95 of the Heavenly Calendar, Chapter 2, 3 options from the Earth Demon, empty save slot, save complete. You have 3 choices. Abruptly, his voice flowed again. No, to be precise, it was the windows, not the voice. Become a core warrior, become a bodyguard, become a secret warrior. For the first time, all the options would let him live. There was new text as well. He was given the difficulty of each choice. Become a core warrior. Return as a vassal after entering the military. Difficulty, become a bodyguard. After personal guidance from Nok-jeongwan, become the Earth Demon's personal bodyguard. Difficulty, become a secret warrior. Assassinate a person of importance. Difficulty, become a core warrior. Return as a vassal after entering the military. Difficulty, the military academy, or demonic academy as it's known, was the premier education center of the sect. It was qualitatively different from the basic training centers. This one supervises all education. 100 people were accepted per year, with the aim of producing only 3 or 4 of the very best. It had benefits, but it had shortcomings too. That is, your life wasn't guaranteed. And death was the only way out. Become a bodyguard. After personal guidance from Nok-jeongwan, become the Earth Demon's personal bodyguard. Difficulty, Elder Nok-jeongwan was ranked 94th in the sect. His personal guidance was bound to help Seol-hwi improve by a lot. However, his fiery personality would make the training quite a trial. He'd need to think about situations where the training got out of hand, and he ended up crippled again. Still, there was a lot to be said about becoming the Earth Demon's bodyguard. It might even be possible to eliminate the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion with the right title. Of course, a lofty position would grant him an in-depth understanding of the sect's politics, but this was the demonic sect. Titles had to be earned with strength. Become a secret warrior. Assassinate a person of importance. Difficulty, this one confused Seol-hwi. Person of importance. Did that mean he had a choice? It gave off ominous vibes. Let's take the easiest option. No matter what he chose, survival was his top priority. So long as he was alive, he had a chance to turn the situation around. You have selected. Become a core warrior. That's good, the Earth Demon nodded. However, there are 6 more days until you can join. I'll head down and talk with the clerk on the first floor, so wait in the basement floor. Do something useful there. Thank you. Well, this much is expected. By the way, down there you should find a book called The 3 Primary Essences Instruction Manual. There must be martial arts in it that you can use. Seol-hwi was startled when the Earth Demon brought up the book he'd used in his previous life. I'm serious. Didn't that imply he was keeping an eye on Seol-hwi? Seol-hwi began to understand how the Earth Demon had acted in the past. Wait. Seol-hwi remembered there were 2 arts in the book he didn't get to learn. I think it was here. Seol-hwi made his way to the basement as soon as the Earth Demon was out of sight and beelined straight for the pile of books in the corner. However, he couldn't find the right book. It had been glowing in the past, but not anymore. It was definitely around here somewhere. Seol-hwi quickly shuffled through the books. He knew a text message would appear when he picked up the right book. White Light Demonic Arts Learning. Fiery Bare-Handed Demonic Arts Possible. Peak Flourishing Demonic Arts Possible. Yes! Seol-hwi's body trembled with excitement. The martial arts the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion had learned, and many more lied in these pages, and now they were his. White light demonic arts learning. Fiery bare-handed demonic arts possible. Peak flourishing demonic arts possible. Fiery bare-handed demonic arts. Red-hot palm no choices this time. With the white light demonic arts, Seol-hwi got to choose what he wanted to learn. This time there was only an unfamiliar art called the red-hot palm. Ah, hand, probably because it's a fist-type art. A pale shadow appeared in front of him as it had in the past. However, it wasn't holding a sword this time. The shadow curled its fingers into a fist and slowly demonstrated how the body had to move. The body, too, changed. The movement. Seol-hwi immediately noticed that the red dots appearing one by one represented the body's blood points. All the energy flowed through the blood points towards a single destination, just below the belly button. It lingered there and then was delivered to the hands. Ah! Soon, Seol-hwi gasped in admiration. He saw the shadow's fists turn gray as they collected energy. Then, the shadow began to use its fists. The energy in its hands spread in both directions, smashing through walls and ceiling. Even as an illusion, its bizarre destructive force could not be overlooked. And now it was his. Next is white light demonic arts learnt. Fiery bare-handed demonic arts learnt. Peak flourishing demonic arts possible. Seol-hwi couldn't suppress his expectations. This was a great martial art, second to none. It was also used by the Lord of the Supreme Pavilion fairly often. Seol-hwi never could have imagined acquiring this kind of power before. Peak flourishing demonic arts. Explosive flaming force, the shadow appeared once again, wielding a sword this time. The blood points were drawn on the body, and energy traced a path from point to point. Then, the shadow's sword struck. The energy exploded outward like a mighty tidal wave. It punched clean through wall after wall without slowing down. Seol-hwi worked hard in the basement. Red, hot palm imitation, learnt doesn't mean implemented, not perfectly at least. Surely he would become stronger when he mastered it, so he tried his best to change the text. Explosive flaming force, imitation. It was obvious after comparing against the shadow. Even though he'd learned all three with the help of the system, he couldn't match the energy the shadow released. Even when he used the white light demonic arts, he could only scrape the walls and ceilings, not break them. Probably because of internal energy. 80/250. If he could generate a greater internal flow, he might one day use the same force the shadow did. Well, swordsmanship imitation, fist imitation, footwork imitation, at least he'd gained all the options from one art this time around. 6 days passed. A middle-aged man came down to the basement the day Seol-hwi was supposed to enter the military academy. Seol-hwi, was it? I am Goan. The earth demon asked me to guide you. Seol-hwi removed his sword and was about to pay his respects. Take this. Goan offered him a gray pill. Huh, it's a pill. Just one will give you 10 years' worth of internal energy. But such a precious. Don't say anything. This is the minimum you would need to survive there. Thank you. Seol-hwi didn't ask any more questions and just swallowed the pill. He knew he had to get stronger. Health, 205 up arrow 85/205 internal energy, 2250 up arrow 2000/2250 such luck. Seol-hwi's expression brightened. His stat had gone up by a whole 2000, but that wasn't all. You have mastered mind reading. What? He'd never even seen this ability before. Mind reading obtained. New description. Understand others' status. Strengthens your perception. Is this because of my increase in internal energy? It seemed that when certain conditions were met, stronger abilities were created. Seol-hwi was obviously delighted by this unexpected boon. Status, Goan Earth Demon's bodyguard. Condition, normal he could see other people's status windows, albeit only partially. Hostility, 77%. Warning, no. Something he'd never seen before. Seol-hwi couldn't help but doubt his eyes. Hostility, 77%. Warning, a subordinate of the first disciple of the heavenly demon. Double agent. Spy.